The buffalo stands in the heat as if the whole savanna has settled on his back. Flies gather at the corners of his eyes. Ticks hide in the folds behind his ears, along the heavy ridge of his neck, beneath the rough hair where his tail cannot reach. Every few seconds, the skin along his flank shivers. His tail snaps. His ears swing outward. His head dips, then lifts again, the horns turning slowly through the pale morning light. He is one of Africa's great weights. A wall of muscle, bone, horn, and breath. But the enemy pressing into him is almost invisible. It does not roar. It does not chase. It waits. It fastens itself to warm skin. It swells in silence. One tick is a small thing. A few ticks are irritation. A heavy load becomes a season of discomfort, lost energy, infection, and constant unrest. Even a giant can be worn down by something too small to fight directly. The buffalo tries the tools his body has given him. He pushes through grass until stems scrape along his sides. He lowers his neck and rubs his shoulder against a tree trunk polished by years of other bodies doing the same thing. Bark flakes away. Dust lifts. The pressure feels good for a moment, but the relief does not last. The ticks are buried deeper than a branch can reach. He steps into a wallow where dark mud folds around his legs and cools the skin under his belly. The mud dries into a crust. It covers old bites and shields fresh ones from the sun. It can smother some insects and discourage others, but it cannot search his ears. It cannot work beneath the curl of a horn. It cannot lift a parasite from the soft place near an eyelid. He swings his tail until the tuft cracks against his flank. Still the flies return. Across the open grass, another shape is watching. It is not impressive at first glance. A bird no longer than a human hand perches on the back of a nearby impala. Its body is brown and compact. Its legs are short and strong. Its claws grip hair the way a climber grips stone. Around its eye is a yellow ring, bright against the face. Its bill is red, sharp, and built for small work on large bodies. This is a red-billed oxpecker. In a world where size often decides who moves and who is moved, the oxpecker survives by going where other birds cannot. It does not simply fly over the giants. It lands on them. It walks across them. It turns hide into landscape, horn into lookout, ear into doorway, and every fold of skin into a possible meal. The buffalo knows the feeling of birds on his back. Sometimes he tolerates them. Sometimes his skin twitches harder, and he shakes them away. The agreement is old, but it is never perfect. The oxpecker may take ticks and biting flies. It may also probe at scabs, feed on blood, and bother wounds that need rest. On the savanna, help is rarely pure. Need is rarely clean. The bird drops from the impala and flies low, wings beating fast over the grass. It lands near the buffalo's shoulder. The first contact is small. Claws press through the hair. The bird leans forward, braces with its tail, and begins to search. It does not move like a singer in a tree. It moves like a worker on a cliff face. Sideways, downward, upside down when the angle demands it. Its bill parts the hair and taps against skin. One peck. A pause. Another peck. The buffalo freezes. A tremor passes under the hide, but the bird holds on. For the oxpecker, this is not kindness. This is breakfast, water, shelter, information, and the thin line between a full day and an empty one. Oxpeckers feed almost entirely from the bodies of large mammals. The savanna's giants are not scenery to them. They are moving islands. A buffalo herd is a chain of islands. A rhino is a fortress with poor eyesight and a rich skin of possibilities. A giraffe is a high plain, warm in the sun, with ears like wind-bent leaves and a tail that sweeps like a branch. The bird works the buffalo's neck. The bill finds a swollen tick, grips, and pulls. The tick resists. The bird braces harder, wings half opening for balance. Then the parasite gives way. The oxpecker tosses its head and swallows. The buffalo's ear turns back. Not gratitude. Not exactly, but a little less pressure. This partnership begins long before the bird touches its first buffalo. It begins in darkness, inside a hollow tree, where a red-billed oxpecker chick waits among scraps of grass and mammal hair. The nest is not lined with softness from the bird's own world alone. It is lined with material taken from the animals that will one day feed it. Even before the chick can fly, the lives of bird and beast are already braided together. Inside the hollow, the chick is bare, hungry, and helpless. Its head lifts at the vibration of returning adults. A bill appears at the entrance. Food passes in. Soft bodies of ticks. Insects. Bits gathered from the hides of buffalo, impala, zebra, giraffe, cattle, and rhino. The chick grows on meals taken from animals many thousands of times its weight. Outside, the dry season tightens. Waterholes shrink. Grass turns the color of old bone. Herds begin to gather around what remains. The heat brings animals closer, and closeness brings parasites. A tick waiting on a grass stem does not need to understand the body it climbs. It only needs contact. A leg brushes past. A host is found. Life attaches to life. The young oxpecker hears the savanna before it sees it clearly. Hooves in dust. The low breath of buffalo. The nasal calls of impala. The distant cough of a predator hidden beyond the tree line. And always the chattering of its own kind.
Oxpeckers are social birds.
Oxpeckers are social birds.
They gather in
Outside
noisy
the nest,
groups.
they gather in noisy groups, moving across herds like a restless cleaning crew. Their calls are not decoration. Sound carries information. A sharp alarm can change the posture of a feeding mammal. On the back of a black rhino, a calling oxpecker can become more than a parasite hunter. It can become an early warning system, a small sentry riding a nearly blind giant. But the young bird knows none of this yet. It only knows hunger. The first flight is not graceful. The juvenile launches from the nest hole and drops more than it rises. Its wings catch the air in uneven beats. It lands badly on a branch, claws slipping before they lock. The world is suddenly too wide. Every sound has a direction. Every shadow has meaning. A bird built to live on the bodies of giants must first survive the empty space between them. The adults move toward a herd of impala at the edge of a clearing. The young oxpecker follows. An impala is not as massive as a buffalo, but it is a good first lesson. Its hide is alive with small movements. It flicks its ears, stamps, looks back, steps away. The juvenile lands too far forward, near the shoulder. The impala shudders. The bird hops, loses balance, flares its wings, and lifts off again. Another attempt. This time, it lands near the rump, where the hair lies flatter and the surface is more forgiving. The adult birds show no sympathy. They work. One climbs along the impala's flank. Another probes the base of the ear. A third hangs from the belly hair for a moment, then springs away as the impala kicks at a fly. The young bird watches, then lowers its bill. It pecks at dust. It pecks at a loose flake of skin. It misses the first tick completely. Learning is not dramatic. It is repeated contact with failure. The juvenile must learn which hosts tolerate a bird and which ones do not. It must learn that zebras twitch and shift. Buffalo can stand like carved stone, then explode into a head toss. Elephants often do not welcome oxpeckers, and a moving trunk can end a lesson quickly. Giraffes offer height and room, but a tail can sweep a bird from the air. Rhinos may carry oxpeckers for long hours, yet their hide is thick, their wounds dangerous, and their lives pressed by threats no bird can fully understand. The oxpecker must also learn restraint. Ticks are food, flies are food, earwax, dead skin, and secretions can be food. But blood is food too, and that is where the partnership begins to bend. When preferred ticks are abundant, the bird's hunger and the host's relief can point in the same direction. When ticks are scarce, a scab may become more valuable than a parasite. A wound that should close can be kept open by a bill that needs another meal. This is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of the oxpecker's life. It is not a villain. It is not a saint. It is a small animal making a living on another animal's body. The buffalo herd moves through the late morning. Dust rises around their legs. Calves press close to their mothers. Egrets lift from the grass ahead of them. The young oxpecker travels with the older birds, sometimes flying, sometimes riding. The herd becomes its road. On the back of one cow, the juvenile finds its first real prize. A tick is tucked into the wrinkle where the shoulder meets the neck. The bird lowers its body and hooks its claws deeper. The buffalo's skin ripples. The juvenile freezes, then pecks. The bill catches. It pulls too quickly and slips. The tick remains. The bird pecks again, slower this time, holding the angle, using the strength of its neck. The parasite loosens. A tiny body comes free from a giant one. The oxpecker swallows. There is no music on the savanna when a lesson succeeds. Only wind, only flies, only the soft grinding of buffalo teeth as the herd keeps feeding. But something changes. The juvenile has crossed from waiting to taking, from nest hunger to field hunger, from being fed by the partnership to entering it. Days pass. The young bird's bill grows redder. Its movements become more certain. It learns to ride the rise and fall of a walking buffalo's shoulder. It learns to angle its body when a giraffe shifts its weight. It learns that the safest path across a rhino is not always the shortest one. It learns that a host tolerance has limits and that a sudden shake can turn a meal into a flight for balance. The savanna teaches through pressure. That noon, heat flattens the world. Animals crowd into shade. The oxpeckers work in the broken light beneath thorn trees, picking through ears, shoulders, neck folds, and tail bases. The work looks delicate, but it is relentless. Each bird must take enough to survive. Each host must decide whether the cost is worth the relief. A buffalo calf tries to rub its face against its mother's leg. Flies gather around its eyes. The calf shakes its head, but the flies lift and settle again. An adult oxpecker lands near the calf's withers. The mother turns sharply. For a second, the bird seems too small to matter. Then it slips away from the head swing, lands again, and begins to feed where the calf cannot reach. The mother does not understand ecology. She understands irritation, pressure, movement, and rest. For a few moments, the calf stands quieter. That is enough. Late in the dry season, the herd reaches a waterhole shared by animals that would not otherwise stand so close. Zebras step in striped lines through the dust. Warthogs kneel to drink. A giraffe spreads its front legs and lowers its long neck like a bridge being lowered over water. Buffalo enter heavily, stirring mud from the bottom until the surface turns brown and thick. The oxpeckers arrive with them. Here, the young red-billed bird meets the scale of its world. A white rhino approaches through the heat shimmer, broad-mouthed and ancient-looking, two horns lifting from a head built low to the ground. It is not a host that needs to be conquered. It is a host that must be read. The rhino's ears turn. Its skin folds like armor, but the folds hold life. Ticks hide in seams. Flies cluster at damp places. Old scratches mark the hide. One oxpecker lands on the rhino's back. Another lands near the ear. The young bird follows, choosing the safer high ground behind the shoulder. The rhino's skin is different from buffalo hide. It is thick, almost plated, but not lifeless. Warmth rises from it. Dust rests in the creases. The bird takes short steps, claws gripping rough surface rather than hair. The rhino keeps walking. For an oxpecker, this is a moving cliff. The bird steadies itself and begins to search. Its bill taps. Its head tilts. It works at a fold near the base of the neck, then moves toward the ear where flies are active. The rhino flicks the ear and the bird hops back. It returns. It probes again. A tick comes free. Small work. Large consequence. Then the wind shifts. The oxpeckers lift their heads before the rhino reacts. Their bodies sharpen. One gives a harsh call. Another joins. The sound cuts through the slow heat. The rhino stops. Its eyesight is poor, but the bird's alarm has reached the place where instinct lies. The rhino turns, not randomly, but toward the wind, using scent to search the blind part of the world. It holds still. The birds remain upright on its back, scanning. Nothing charges. Nothing dramatic crosses the frame. Only a change in posture. But in the wild, posture can be
of a
survival.
rhino can be vital for survival.
For rhinos,
but oxpeckers do more than just
can
clean.
do more than clean.
Research has shown that the bird's alarm calls
can help black rhinos detect approaching humans earlier, at greater distances, and more reliably than rhinos without these riders. The old Swahili name for the red-billed oxpecker means the rhino's guard. Long before a field experiment measured the effect, people who lived near these animals had already noticed the small bird with the loud warning. The young oxpecker does not know the name. It knows the rule.
It knows the rule.
When the flock alarms lift,
watch,
call,
be ready to leave.
Be ready to leave. The rhino turns away from the unseen disturbance and moves toward thicker cover. The birds ride with it, balancing on a body that could crush them without intention. The partnership holds because both sides keep moving. As the season deepens, the young oxpecker becomes part of a daily rhythm that is older than the individual bird and older than any single herd. Morning begins with movement from roost to host. The birds call, land, feed, lift, return. They choose large animals more often because large animals carry more surface, more parasites, and more stability. A buffalo is a better platform than a small antelope. A giraffe is a tower of opportunity. A rhino is dangerous shelter. A herd is a map of meals. The oxpecker's body fits this life in every detail. Short legs keep it close to the host. Curved claws grip hair and hide. A stiff tail braces the body when the bird climbs vertically. The bill is not built for seeds or nectar. It is built to pry, pick, and pull. Even its social nature serves the work. Many eyes notice movement. Many voices can turn one alarm into a warning strong enough to shift a giant. Still, the host is never just a table. The buffalo can feel the bill. The impala can flinch. The giraffe can shake. The rhino can tolerate a bird for hours, then suddenly decide the contact is too much. When an oxpecker probes a wound, the balance changes. The host may pay a cost. The bird may gain a meal. The same relationship that removes ticks in one moment can irritate flesh in another. This is why the oxpecker's story matters. It refuses the easy version of nature. Nature is not a row of heroes and villains. It is a set of negotiations made under hunger, heat, fear, and need. A tick takes from a buffalo. A bird takes the tick. The same bird may take blood. The buffalo may tolerate the bird because the alternative is worse, or because the cost is small, or because the relief is immediate. The meaning shifts with season, host, parasite load, and hunger. On a cloudy afternoon, rain begins far away. The smell reaches the animals before the drops do. The buffalo herd lifts its heads. The wind moves across the grass in bands, pressing the blades flat. Oxpeckers cling tighter as the first gust hits. Dust rises, then falls under the rain. The savanna darkens in minutes. For the young bird, rain changes the work. Wet hair lies differently. Flies vanish for a while. Ticks remain. The buffalo's hide gleams. Mud softens around the legs. Water runs through the grooves of horns and collects in the folds of skin. The bird shakes itself, feathers spiking, then returns to the buffalo's shoulder. The giant stands with rain striking his back. The tiny bird works through the weather. There is something almost tender in the image, though tenderness is not the force that made it. The buffalo does not invite the bird with affection. The bird does not serve the buffalo from loyalty. Yet for a few minutes, the two bodies form a single answer to the same hard season. One offers height, heat, and parasites. The other offers picking, warning, and disturbance. Neither is complete alone. By evening, the rain passes. The sky opens into a low-go light. The herd spreads across new damp grass. The young oxpecker flies to a giraffe feeding near an acacia. It lands high, just behind the shoulder, where the coat pattern breaks into warm patches. From here, the savanna is enormous. The bird can see over the backs of buffalo, over termite mounds, over the shining line of the waterhole. Below, the giraffe chews slowly. The oxpecker begins again. It searches the base of the mane. It leans between patches of hair. It pauses when the giraffe's skin twitches, then resumes. The work is repetitive, but repetition is life. The bird does not need one heroic act. It needs thousands of small, accurate ones. A day in the life of an oxpecker is made of these moments. Land, grip, search, pull, balance, talk call, leave, return. Each act is small enough to miss. Together, they shape the comfort, alertness, and health of animals far larger than the bird itself. They also shape the bird. Without big mammals, an oxpecker loses its main world. Without parasites, the bargain changes. Without open savanna and herds moving through it, the bird's body becomes a tool with nowhere to work. The next morning, the young oxpecker is no longer only following. It leaves the roost with the flock and turns toward a buffalo before the adults settle. It chooses a place behind the horn where the skin folds deep. It lands cleanly. Its claws hold. Its tail braces. The buffalo flicks an ear, but does not shake. The bird begins. This time, the movements are confident. It parts the hair, finds the swelling shape of a tick, and pulls with steady pressure. The parasite comes free. The bird swallows, then moves to the next fold. The buffalo exhales. They sound like air leaving an old drum. The oxpecker lifts its head. For a moment, the red bill points into the light. Around it, the savanna wakes in layers. Zebras move like shadows cut into stripes. Impala step through seed heads. A rhino pushes through brush with birds already on its back. The morning belongs to giants, but it also belongs to the small lives that read them closely. As the bird matures, it will find a mate. It will return to tree holes. It will line a nest with grass and hair. It will feed chicks with food gathered from the hides of animals that barely notice the nest exists. The cycle will begin again, not as a perfect friendship, but as a living arrangement written across skin, feather, horn, and heat. The oxpecker's life is not separate from the giants. It is carried by them. And sometimes the giants are carried by it in return. Not in weight, in warning, in relief. In the quiet removal of small burdens before they become larger ones. This is the rule the savanna keeps repeating. Strength is not always size. Dependence is not always weakness. And survival is often built from partnerships that are messy, temporary, and real. By sunset, the buffalo herd is moving again. The light catches the birds as they lift from one back to another. For an instant, each oxpecker is only a flicker of brown wings and a red bill above a dark animal body. Then it lands, grips, and disappears into its work. The giant continues across the grass. The tiny bird rides with him. Between them is no promise that lasts forever. Only the next tick, the next alarm, the next breath, and the next small act that makes another day possible.